English literature before the Conquest. A considerable body of Anglo-Saxon poetry has been preserved, including one piece of immense interest, the epic Beowulf. Of the authorship of this, nothing is known, and its history is still a matter of controversy. But it is probable that it grew up in the form of ballads among the ancestors of the English in Denmark and South Sweden, that in this form it was brought by invaders to this country, and that it was here fashioned into an epic perhaps by some Northumbrian poet about the 8th century. Manifestly heathen in origin, it is as it stands the work of a Christian writer. It tells with the rude vigor of the mighty feats of the hero whose name it bears. How first he fought and killed the monster Grendel, who for 12 years had wasted the land of the king of the Danes. How next he slew Grendel's mother, and how at last, a very old man, he went out to destroy a fiery dragon, receiving as well as giving a mortal wound. Vivid pictures of life in war and peace among our remote forefathers add greatly to the value of a fine old poem. Apart from Beowulf, the most important surviving examples of our oldest English poetry are to be found in the works of Cædmon and Cynewulf, both of whom belong to the north, and to the period immediately following the conversion of the Anglo-Saxons to Christianity, which began at the end of the 6th century. Cædmon, who died about 680, was a servant attached to the monastery of Whitby in Yorkshire. According to a pretty tale told by the Venerable Bede, the power of verse came to him suddenly as a divine gift. He had never been able to sing to the harp as others did in festive gatherings in the monastery hall, and when his turn came round, he had always been used to retire in humiliation. But one night, having gone to the stables to look after the horses of which he had charge, he fell asleep, and an angel appeared to him in a vision and told him to sing. Then when he asked, "What shall I sing?" the heavenly visitor replied, "Sing the beginning of created things." And waking, he found himself, to his astonishment, endowed with the faculty of poetry. 3 free paraphrases of Scripture, which have come down to us in the manuscript of the 10th century, have been attributed to him. One dealing with the creation and the fall. The second with the Exodus from Egypt. The third with the history of Daniel. But it is now believed that a considerable portion of these poems, if not the whole of them, is the work not of Cædmon himself, but of his imitators. They were first printed about 1650 by an acquaintance of Milton, and it has been thought, though that there is no proof of this, that the great poet may have taken hints from the Genesis in writing Paradise Lost. A miraculous element also enters into the story of Cynewulf's career. Born, it is conjectured, between 1720 and 720 and 730, he was in earlier life, as he himself tells in his dream of the Rood, a wandering glebe man and a lover of pleasure. But converted by a vision of the cross, he dedicated himself henceforth to religious themes. His works include a poem called Christ, treating of the Incarnation, the descent into hell, the ascension, and the last judgment. Elaine, an account of the finding of the true cross, according to the legend, by Helena, the mother of Constantine, and Juliana, a tale of Christian martyrdom. While generally sacred in subject and profoundly earnest in feeling, Anglo-Saxon poetry is full of a love of adventure and fighting, and sometimes its martial spirit bursts out into regular war poetry, as in the Battle of Brunanburh, 937, of which Tennyson made a spirited translation. A fondness for the sea, ingrained in our English character, is also another striking feature of it. In form, it rests upon principles of composition radically different, as I have said, from those which govern modern English versification. In place of our rhyme, or end rhyme, as it is more strictly called, it employs beginning rhyme, or alliteration, that is, the regular and emphatic repetition of the same letter. While the lines are quite irregular in regard to the number of unaccented syllables introduced, to state the broad rule. Each line of an Anglo-Saxon poem consisted of 2 divisions. The first of these contained 2 accented syllables, the second at least 1. And the accented syllables in each case began with the same letter. This gives us the normal type of Anglo-Saxon verse, as in this line from Beowulf. Mãe Coruja. Bom, boa sorte quem quiser ler esse negócio aí. Grendel Golden, sei lá que diabo é isso. Another illustration will be given later from a 14th century poem in which the old alliterative system was preserved. Anglo-Saxon poetry flourished most in the north. Prose developed later in the south. In general, while interesting from the linguistic and antiquarian points of view, and the prose writings which have come down to us possess but little value as literature. Though hardly more than a translator, King Alfred holds an honorable place as the first to put the vernacular to systematic use. Among the words rendered by him into the language which we all understand, to adopt his own significant phrase, was the Latin ecclesiastical history of the Venerable Bede, or Beda, who wrote at Jarrow in the kingdom of Northumbria. But the greatest monument of Old English prose is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which, though it already existed before Alfred, was under his guidance transformed into a national history, and which was so continued till 1154, when it closed with the record of the death of King Stephen, or Stephen.